I'm listening to Kanye West right now and recording this video, so you know, maybe the subject of the video is a little bit funny, but I decided to do another ism video, and the ism I'm going to discuss is determinism. So what does determinism mean? Well, it means that we're usually directed by naturalistic causes, that our motions, our actions, or what we think are affected by things that are out of our control, really. And I know that's a point of a lot of contention because our legal system is based on the fact or the premise that we all have free will and that we decide what we're going to do. Now, if you look into it, and I haven't looked that far into it, you'll see that some people think that there's a barrier between what we think causes our action and what we have in terms of control, and that barrier is usually referred to as the metaphysical. So there's a point at which the causes that create your actions or create things that you do are not detectable, and they could be relegated to the realm of philosophy, the realm of, you know, not being real, metaphysical, really. Now, I've only, you know, I always give it a caveat with these videos because I'm never always trying to say this is the final answer and this is based on, like, you know, tons of research. It's just me kind of musing about things that I've read and kind of coming up with my own theories, sometimes before I actually do the research to see how well I do as an independent thinker. So, when it comes to free will versus determinism, I would naturally want to say that I am for determinism. I would say that nobody has free will. Nobody. And if you think about it, the amount of factors that go into creating an action that you perform is so immense and so complex and so interconnected on physicality and on temporality. Like, I mean, that you can't possibly have control over the things you do and say. Citing one of Sam Harris's studies, he's a neuroscientist, so, he's done studies, and in terms of that's why he became a neuroscientist, by the way, to kind of prove that these things happen in the brain and why they happen in the brain, etc., etc. He was saying that if you look at the subconscious as it relates to your conscious ideas, your thoughts can be at least a few milliseconds predicted before you actually consciously think them. So if somebody else can predict what you're going to do before you know you're going to do it, I'd say determinism is basically how we all function. We all function by predetermined causes, naturalistic causes. And the thing is too, as we get smarter and we expand our understanding of the mind and consciousness and even just external systems like weather chaos theory is a thing. It predicts that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil somewhere is going to be the cause of a hurricane that forms off the coast of West Africa. The better we expand our understanding of these systems, the better understanding we have of where determinism lies, and if it lies at all. But that metaphysical barrier that we were talking about, I think, gets pushed even further and further back, because then we can start understanding every single factor that comes into play when we perform an action or think a thought or say something. Now, I think that the complexity involved almost necessitates determinism, because there are so many different factors and so many different things you could take into account in predicting or in looking at an action or an utterance or a thought. You cannot possibly say that free will is involved. Complexity, and because the world is complex, as we all know, in terms of everything that can and does happen, we cannot predict, we cannot say that free will exists. We have to say that every single factor that changes everything else is interdependent. I mean, obviously, right? So I would say that complexity necessitates determinism. Sorry, I may have said free will earlier. I think that complexity necessitates determinism. There's just no way around it. And, you know, the other thing too is if you believe in if you believe in the compatibilist, you believe that free will does kind of exist somewhere and that, you know, there are causal factors, etc., but there's a split where you can say that choice is compatible with determinism. But I just can't see that happening, and I have yet to read that book. So I mean, you know, I just can't see that happening. I can't. If you have free will and there's one crack in terms of a deterministic factor in creating or being some sort of contributive factor, you have no free will. Like, I just don't see how that can be compatible. I don't see how those two things can exist, free will and determinism. I can't see them existing together. But, you know, I mean, I have yet to read compatibilist theory as well. So we'll see how this turns out. But yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about determinism so far. I have to get that book. So it's not expensive. It's actually $6 or something. So I have to get that book, and I have to do a little bit more reading up on compatibilism. Although I'm sure the book is going to have stuff about compatibilism as well. And yeah, I'll let you know how right I turned out to be. So, you know, that's about it for now. See ya.